Hello and welcome back to my channel. In today's episode, we are going to learn about the new experimental feature called Parse JSON. But before we move to the video, here is a short intro. Basically, what is Parse JSON? Okay, the Parse JSON function with untyped object provides a very generic way to handle dynamic incoming JSON through PowerFX formulas. The parse JSON is actually a function which is basically an experimental feature at this moment, which can parse JSON strings, valid JSON strings into PowerFX objects and types. This new experimental feature is new functionality available in Canvas app. Once this experimental feature is activated, working with JSONs in the Canvas apps will be dramatically simplified. The parse JSON is the function that will return an untyped object. It will accept a text value, which should be a valid JSON string, right? What is the object written by the parse JSON? So the object which is written by the parse JSON function is of type untyped object. We need to explicitly convert those objects to the proper object type. Let's say text or number or boolean, something, for example, something like that. If the passed JSON string is JSON array, then the returned untyped object needs to be explicitly converted to the Canvas app's table object, and then we can use those data in our app. Okay. And we can use the Canvas app's ForAll function that can be used to generate a strongly typed object from the untyped object. We will see that in demo in a while. You also need to convert that top table object to the typed table using the ForAll function before assigning it to any of the gallery controls. Let's say I want to use my JSON output, like this parse JSON output, into vertical gallery. Then before doing that, I have to convert that to some type of typed object instead of the untyped objects. Okay. So now it's time to watch this parse JSON in an action. So let's go ahead and see that in action in demo. So right now I am in my Power Apps developer account, and in this account I am going to create a new Power App called as Canvas. We are going to create new Canvas app and going to provide a name as Parse JSON demo. Click create and skip this dialog. And before moving ahead, what we have to do is we have to enable that experimental feature. To go that, we are going in settings, then search for parse, and inside this experimental tab, we are going to see the parse JSON function and untyped object. Click OK, and this will enable our feature. Hit save to save our Canvas app. It will take some time to save this app. Once it is saved, let's just confirm our app is already, that experimental feature is already activated. Let's go to the settings again, updating features, experimental, parse, and yeah, the feature is activate now. Right. So now I'm going to add one text input. That is a text input control, and going to name it as text input, the text input, txt input. And in this txt input, I'm going to make it as multi-line text box. And in this txt input, I'm going to add one valid JSON. So in here, what I can do is I have just pasted that valid JSON, which is it consists of name, age, email, and active true, right? Now I'm going to add one more control, that is text label, txt label, right? And what I want to do is want to use parse JSON function, and it will have the txt input.text as an input parameter. And as you can see, the output of this parameter, output of this parse JSON is untyped object, right? So if I want to have the name property, I will write dot name, which is also an untyped object. So I have to type it to the text variable like text object. And as you can see, now I have my name in here. In same way, I can get the email, right? That is also a text property. I know that is a text property, so I can type it to the text and it will return me the email address. And if I want to have the uh, age, right? Let me just copy that, and let's say I want to have these active true or false, that is a boolean value. So I will cast that to boolean values and it will return me true or false. So in that way, you can use the parse JSON function, right, to get the values out of your JSON. Right now, I am adding another another valid JSON, which is an array, like JSON array, which is having multiple data in it, and that is a JSON array object. And also adding the vertical gallery, which will have the layout as title, subtitle, and body. To get this JSON parsed, what I have to do is just use the same function, parse JSON text input.text. And as we all know, the array is treated as table in Canvas app. So I will cast that to table. And now what I can do is just this item dot value dot whatever item I want, whatever attribute I want to show, like name, I can just cast it and then show it with particular data object as text. The other thing is same, like this dot value that I want to show email, cast it with text. As we all know, that is a string value. And if I want to show the third value, which is let's say email or age, we know the age is number and number is treated with value in Canvas apps. So it will display the age. If I run it, as you can see, if I change any value in here, let's say 37, it will be displayed. If I change the name Pratik to Pratik1 or Pratik, it will be displayed. So it's working perfectly. Okay. So there is a possibility of having some complex JSON objects, which is having some more complex data in that. Let's say we have a complex object, something like this. As you can see, we have as you can see right now, I am just having a simple array. So this array is having Sigar, Vaibhav, Krunal, and Pratik in it. And if I go and add one more label and try to parse JSON, this txt input.text. But as we know, this is simple array. So we have to use indexing to get that particular record. Let's say I am using index of second record. So that will be returned as, you can say, value of Vaibhav, but I have to use that dot value. That particular case, I have just forgot to add that table, and that's why it's not displaying. So I have added table and now it's displaying the value in here. And now I can convert that to text because I want to show the first value. So as you can see now, the Vaibhav is displayed. If I change it to 1, Sigar is displayed. If I change it to 3, Krunal is displayed. And if I change it to 4, the value of Pratik is displayed. The 5 is not there. The index is out of bounds, so it will not display any value in that. Right? So let's say we have a much more complex JSON array than this. Let's say something like this, which is having a colleagues as the key for our JSON array. So how we can achieve for this particular case is uh, we can use that same parse JSON function. Let me just go and try to add one vertical gallery. Yeah, here it is, vertical gallery. Okay, and change and yeah, this is the vertical gallery, and instead of its item as custom part gallery, I can use the parse JSON function, which will have the text input dot text as its input parameter, and it will return that untyped object to me, and I need to convert that to table as I wanted to use that into the vertical gallery, right? And in here, once I did that, what I have to do is I have to uh, get whatever value I want to display in this particular case, right? There is a colleagues is a main working value. So the colleagues needs to be there so that all the values are fetched, and then I can change the label values from this item dot sample heading to something called as this item dot uh, this item dot value, and convert that to particular typed object. Let's say I want to display the name, I can cast it to text. If I want to display email, I can cast it to text, as we know that is a string. And let's say I want to display, let me just copy this in here so that we can have more idea. And in here, let's say I want to this item dot weight value age, then age is a number, so we can use the value parameter in here, right? This is how we can use this complex JSON as well to get our things working. If I change value from 36 to 35, it is displayed. And yes, that's it. So how these things are working in case of this complex JSON as well. The other thing what we can do is we can use, instead of making all the things go and work one by one, what we can do is we can have for all function. Let me show how we can use the for all function to cast this object to the typed object. Let me add one button and rename it to fetch. Yeah, fetch is fine. And insert one more vertical gallery in here, and this gallery, let me just here, I am minimizing it. Yeah, that is fine. Okay, and on this, on select click button on select criteria, what I can do is just reading this particular txt input.text JSON and setting it into the one variable called as untyped variable. Let me type untyped variable, and using the for all function. Okay, and inside this for all function, what before that we have to parse the JSON actually. So use the parse JSON txt input dot text. Yes, so it will return us the untyped object. And then what we have to do is we have to use this key name in this particular case, that's colleagues. So yeah, just edit this one more time and put the colleagues in here. So it will provide us the whole JSON object, right? And now what we have to do is we have to convert that to table, as we want to use it under the into the vertical gallery, right? And then we can go and use the for all function to traverse this table and then convert that table objects into whatever typed object we required. For example, I am going with let's say instead of CID, I can use CNAME. right? That is a colleague's name, and and that is a string, so I can cast it to text. This record, yep, this record. Why it's not coming? Just a minute. Uh, just a minute. Yeah, okay, yeah, yeah, I understood. Okay, so I'm missing that closing parenthesis. Yeah, opening parenthesis. That is record dot value dot name. So that will provide me the name of that particular object. I want another attribute as age. I want it to be this record dot value dot age, and I want to cast it to values because that is a number field, right? And if I go and run this, like I just go and try to see what object it is returning, it will go and return me the data in terms of let's say if I just select it and run it. So if I can open that, yeah, I can just go and run it. So I just missed something here. Okay, yeah, missing the parentheses. Yeah, if I go and run it, it will evaluate these to the different values. And if I go and open the untyped objects, I can see there are some values in that which are already typed. Okay, so what I can do in that case is just selecting the vertical gallery, changing its layout to title, subtitle, and body. And instead of its item as custom gallery sample, now I can use that my global variable, untyped variable, as its items. And instead of showing the variables in different values, my everything is working fine now because it's already typed things, right? So I can change it to this dot age and it will be displayed, like, right? And let's say I want to add something, some other attribute here. Let's say active, whether it is boolean value true or false. I can cast it to boolean value, and the value will be this record dot value dot active dot this dot value dot active. Yes, this dot active. And if I go into this gallery and I can change its value from this dot item dot cname to active. Yep. And if I run it, I can see the 36 true, 35 true. If I change it to 36 and false, the value has been changed. So as you can see now how we can use the complex parse JSONs to parse with very complex data into the simple global variables or some type of tables, and then use it in our Canvas app very easily. I hope you have enjoyed the video. Please be kind enough to like it, and you can add comments or any of your doubts or queries in the comment section.